There is nothing that makes you feel more crazy or hurt than trying to have any sort of relationship with someone who is narcissistic. The gaslighting, the manipulation, the overall deception. I mean, it messes with your mind, and I simply want to remind us all of what we deserve. You deserve someone who cares about what you're going through. You deserve someone who wants to know how you feel. And the sad reality is, a narcissistic person doesn't care about your feelings. They don't care about your experience, because why would they? It's their experience that matters, right? Your perspective isn't important to them. And worse, if you're feeling hurt or disconnected or lonely, they try to convince you that you actually deserve to feel that way, and you're blamed and dismissed and invalidated. I never said that. You're really going to make a big deal about that? Wow, you're so sensitive. You know nobody else would put up with you like I do, right? Or they will go the opposite route and say, oh, you're right, I'm just a piece of crap, I'm worthless, I knew you never cared about me. And then you have to say, no, I do care about you, I don't want you to feel worthless, that's not what I meant at all. And once again, they've manipulated us without us even realizing it. I mean, we were the ones initially talking about our hurt or our concern or need. We were looking to be listened to and validated. We needed them to self-reflect and take accountability and even apologize, and yet now we're the ones listening to them and comforting them and even apologizing to them. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you upset. And worst of all, they're going to use this moment later as ammunition. They'll say, remember the other day when you had to apologize for how you were mistreating me? And even though you know that's not what happened, you won't say anything because they've already painted you as argumentative and you always have to be right and you're always complaining. So you just stay quiet. But I need you to see it's a game you'll never win. It's a rigged system. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner I hope you stop playing. You deserve someone who cares about how their words and actions impact you. Which, if you really think about it, is the foundation of love, right? Love communicates, I care how my behavior affects you. So if someone narcissistic is telling you with their words, I love you, I've never experienced this kind of love with anyone else, but with their actions, they are disrespectful and inconsistent and just plain mean, believe actions, not words. One day they say they love you and they talk about your future together, but the next day they tell you they don't have issues with anybody else, and that's why they blame you for why they're mistreating you. You're the reason behind their toxic behavior coming out. And just remember, when that happens, that is BS, and that is them trying to manipulate you. Narcissistic people don't care about what you need. In fact, they tell you having needs in general is weak, right? Except for the fact that they need you to admire and respect them. And if you don't, well, you'll get punished for that. But just think what would happen if you treated them the exact same way they treated you. Think of the names they would call you, because there is no reciprocation in these relationships. They are a walking double standard. If you point out areas that they need to work on, you're attacking them. You don't appreciate them. You hate them. And yet they say terrible things to you. They constantly criticize you and say, they're just trying to help you, right? Don't you want to be the best version of yourself? It's just another way they dominate the dynamic. Your feelings don't matter. What you need to feel loved and valued doesn't matter. I mean, just ask yourself, when's the last time they even asked you what you need to feel loved? Probably not since you first met. And I get it. They used to be nice. They used to care. They used to give you attention and affection. And let me guess, the reason they don't do those things anymore is because they blame you. They would treat you better if you just deserve to be treated better. So you'll continue bending over backwards for a moving goalpost. And you will keep holding on to the idea that they used to be loving towards me. So you'll do anything to get back to that place, right? The only problem is it wasn't real. They weren't being loving. They were being manipulative. They were getting you attached. They were doing everything they could to get you to bond to them, so that when the mask slips off and they start degrading you and devaluing you, you won't actually leave. And if you don't get anything else from this video, I hope you remember this. You deserve a relationship where there is reciprocation. You deserve the same kindness and respect that you give out to others. You deserve someone who makes you feel peaceful when they're around you, not like you have to walk on eggshells or else you're going to be punished. And for so many of you, you didn't have that growing up. Your partner now seems eerily similar to either a past partner or your parents growing up, don't they? You had to fight for affection and attention and approval then as well. You had to earn love then too. You were made to believe that you were a burden and that you weren't valuable enough to prioritize. And for anyone who's made it this far in the video, I just want to remind you that wasn't true. You are worth prioritizing, and you should never be made to feel like you are a burden. You should never be called names or hit or belittled or demeaned. You should never be looked down upon and constantly criticized for your mistakes and never praised for what you're getting right. You are valuable. And I know what you're going to say. Well, I'm not perfect. Of course you're not perfect. None of us are perfect. But you know you're trying. You know you're putting effort into this relationship and into being a better person. But let me lovingly remind you, you will never be enough for a toxic person. You will never earn love from a narcissist. They are deeply wounded and so full of shame and their own self-hate that they have to project that right onto you, or else their false reality would crumble. And that's why nothing you do is good enough. That's why they expect attention and admiration from you, but they won't give it. You can't heal them with your love. You can't save them with people pleasing. You can't give enough so they will actually appreciate you. They will only continue to take because they have no interest in doing the work that any relationship needs to work. Empathy, humility, accountability, consideration, mutual respect. People that neglect those don't deserve a relationship. And on the other side, you certainly won't feel connected or close to anyone who neglects them either. And the saddest part is I can say all that, and your first question is, okay, so how can I tell if my partner is a narcissist? And it's the wrong question. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they get diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. It doesn't matter if they're on the borderline of NPD or just having narcissistic traits. It doesn't matter if they're severely avoidantly attached, or maybe they're just an addict, or maybe they're just emotionally immature. Here are the correct questions. Is this person interested in my feelings and needs? Can I share constructive feedback with this person without them going into a fit of rage and punishing me for doing so? Does this person bring peace into my life or only more stress and chaos? Do I actually feel safe in this relationship? Safe to say no, safe to express myself. Is there consistency or are they hot and cold? Do I feel confused all the time? Am I being belittled or mocked? Do they apologize when they mess up, or is their destructive behavior somehow blamed on me? Do they avoid hard conversations, or can they actually communicate with respect and empathy? Because frankly, I don't care what we want to label this person as. I'll give you the only label that matters if any of those are true. Not your person. Not capable of connection or closeness. That's the label that we need to give them, because that's exactly where those paths lead. And I get it. You're an empath. You're a giver. You love them, right? And you feel like if you left, you'd be abandoning them in a way, don't you? And yet they abandon you every single time they mistreat you. How come we don't view their hurtful words and actions as them abandoning us? When they call you those names, we don't view that as severely damaging the trust in the relationship. But if we decided to remove ourselves from toxic or harmful environments, somehow we're abandoning them. Let me remind you, it takes two people doing the work to make a relationship work, and you only have one. They aren't interested in learning anything about accountability or learning what any relationship needs to be healthy and safe. They aren't interested in reading that book or watching a YouTube video on how to build closeness together or even getting professional help, because they know they will be exposed and called out. And at the end of the day, they don't have a problem with the way they treat you. Only you do. And you might not leave this relationship, but you're going to stay and be miserable. And eventually you'll get sick. I don't just mean like sick and tired of being mistreated. I mean like physically sick from being walked all over and trying to give the benefit of the doubt and continuing to love them, even though your body is screaming they aren't safe and you deserve better. And you can continue to war with your heart and mind, but that always comes at a cost. Just ask yourself this simple question. Think of all the ways they mistreat you, large and small ways, that they disregard you, they don't consider you, they blame you, they scream at you, they devalue you. Let me just ask you one simple question. Would you ever do that to anyone else that you said you loved? And even a worse question, what would you do if you found out that your kids were being treated like that? And the answer is you would be furious, and you would never treat anyone else like that. And yet you feel stuck because you say, well, I've tried everything. I mean, they won't listen. Of course they don't listen. Why would they? They don't value your perspective or feelings. And I'm certainly not here to victim blame. I know how extremely difficult this whole situation can be. Staying is hard. Leaving is also hard. Maybe there's children involved. And like I said, you were probably abandoned in your past, and you never want someone else to feel that pain. But you just have to realize the danger that you're in. And I get it. We don't know each other. But the truth is, I care about you. I care about your relationships. I care about your mental health. I care about your emotional health. I want you to have the relationship that you deserve, one with mutual respect and consideration and emotional connection. And I just want to lovingly remind you that you should never have to abandon yourself in order to feel loved and accepted and valued in a relationship. That's not a partnership. And if you would admit that you would never want your children treated that way that you're being treated, sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is show them what healthy boundaries actually look like. Show them that people's behavior dictates how much access of ourselves we allow them to have. We can't control a lot of things in this life, but the one thing we should control is whether or not we're forced to be in the presence of someone hurtful or toxic. Show them that at the bare minimum, everyone deserves someone who cares about their boundaries. Because we say things like, well, you can't set boundaries with a narcissist, right? Because they don't care. They'll just walk all over them. But let me just challenge all of us. What type of person walks all over someone's boundaries? What type of person doesn't care to know what makes you feel exhausted or overextended or uncomfortable or pressured? What type of person, when given the information, hey, this makes me feel really uncomfortable, just says, get over it, it's not my problem? What type of person, when you say, this would hurt me, does it anyways? The only type of person that does that is someone who is unsafe and untrustworthy. And just to give us all a little refresher on boundaries, boundaries are for us. It's not about getting them to do something differently. A healthy boundary is, I will not tolerate someone calling me names during conflict. So if that happens, I will take a 30-minute break from that discussion and then come back and finish once we're both more calm. That's a boundary. It requires nothing from the other person. It's not me controlling them. They can stay there and call me every name in the book, but I won't be there to hear it because my boundary is leaving those conversations. Now, a lot of people will say, yeah, but narcissists don't respect boundaries. And you're absolutely right. And at the same time, everyone agrees the only way to remove a narcissist from your life is to go no contact, right? No contact is the perfect example of a boundary. They don't have to agree with it for us to enforce it. So we have to quit expecting other people to honor and respect our boundaries when we don't honor and respect and enforce our boundaries first. Now, if you're saying, okay, but they follow me into the other room screaming, or they start throwing things, or they won't even let me leave, I can't imagine how scary and difficult that situation is. But what you're describing is not a boundary issue anymore. Now we're talking about abuse. And if you can't take a time out when one or both of you is getting heated without them threatening you or continuing to escalate the fight, if you can't ask for a pause and a moment to calm down without them punishing you, that's abuse. And you're right, abusive people don't care about your boundaries. The truth is, you probably don't have a lot of experience with someone asking you what your boundaries and needs even are. I mean, you might think, I don't even know what my boundaries and needs are. That's because you're usually so other-focused that you don't even think about yourself. And the people who are for you, the people who you should be surrounding yourself with, the people who you should give access of yourself to, should be consistently caring about what you also need to feel safe and loved and valued. The moment that your partner starts showing you that they no longer care about your feelings is the moment that that relationship starts dying. And yes, we all make mistakes. Yes, we all get into conflicts. But do you know the one thing that relationship experts say makes all the difference between whether your relationship survives or dies? Being able to repair during and after conflicts. And what is necessary for any repair to occur? Self-reflection, empathy, and accountability. The narcissist is 0 for 3 on those and has no interest in changing that. It's up to you to recognize their importance and act accordingly by giving more or less of your time, attention, and energy to people with no capacity for those. The thing that makes all the difference during a conflict is for both of you to remember we're supposed to be on the same team. It's not you versus me. The way we do that is by taking turns listening, by providing a safe place for our partner to share something that's on their heart in a vulnerable and respectful way. I'm certainly not saying we should be constantly complaining. Of course, we should have an overall culture of appreciation and gratitude and mutual respect for each other. And a healthy relationship can survive the occasional complaint or hurt. A mature relationship, a loving relationship, actually wants to know if our partner is upset or hurt or has any unmet needs. That's part of actually loving another person. The narcissistic person will never actually listen or appreciate you. That takes away from them being the center of attention. It takes away from them being the victim, which is actually one of the best tells to find a narcissist. Listen out for people who can't take any accountability and always blame something or someone else for their actions. They have to be the victim. They will never hold space by actually listening to what you're feeling or needing. They cannot listen to you because it triggers their own shame and ego. They don't communicate with vulnerability, talking about their actual feelings. They communicate through passive aggressiveness or by shaming you. And it works because you might have a history with being shamed and told that you're worthless, and it resonates for you. That's why you don't fight back when you're called worthless, because deep down you wonder, maybe they're right. And my job is to remind you they're wrong. The truth is you're valuable and you're worthy of kindness and respect. And one day, when your self-esteem and your self-worth are back to pre-traumatized levels, you're going to see that you never deserved to be treated like that. And you put up with so much because you're a loving person and you give the benefit of the doubt and you want to see the good in people. And that's wonderful. But givers have to have limits because takers won't. You want practical advice for anyone who has to interact with a narcissistic person? Listen out for ways that they bait you into a fight. Listen out for ways that they lie in order to get you to respond. Listen for how they try to manipulate you by trying to get you upset and emotionally reactive. Learn how to see past the lies and accusations and tricks and give one-word answers or don't answer at all. Is that hard? Of course it is, because you probably love this person and you wish things were different, but things aren't different. And that's not your fault. It's because they refuse to do the work. And I don't advise on manipulating a narcissist because we need to be above that, right? But the truth is, a narcissistic person doesn't fear you yelling back at them or getting emotionally reactive or exploding, right? What really makes the narcissist terrified is indifference. When you get to the place where you can communicate with your silence, you're not worth fighting with, and you walk away. That's when they realize they've lost control over you and now they have nothing left. Now, is that hard to do? Of course it is. And my heart breaks for anyone who has to somehow navigate all this. My hope is that this information reassures you. You are not too needy for needing the bare minimum levels of respect and consideration and kindness. And you deserve way more than the bare minimum. And it makes sense why you don't feel safe around someone who neglects those. It makes sense why you've lost trust in this relationship when you don't feel prioritized. And I just want to remind you, you're worth someone serving and sacrificing for you too. Thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next one.